Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time tuning in, you really came and started on a good video. I am so pleased to announce we hit 1,000 subscribers. That has been a huge milestone for me personally. If you guys have been following this channel, basically it's just me. I film it myself, I edit it myself, everything's done on an iPhone, I edit it on an iPad. Literally anyone could do it. I mean, you don't even need an iPad, but you could do this literally on your phone with the iMovie software. So for me to hit 1,000 subscribers is huge, and I could not do that without all of your support. So I would just like to say, before we get into the content of the video, I truly appreciate every one of you who has commented, offered kind words, made fun of my appearance, or subscribed. I take it all, okay? So I really appreciate that. With that being said, let's go and dive into the video. And we're gonna talk about this Steeda that I removed. So this was a Steeda Triax, very popular for the T45 and T5, but I pulled it out in favor of an MGW, and we'll talk about that in the video. I must say, I'm not here to knock anyone, and the Steeda Triax is a very good shifter. In my opinion, I think the MGW is a little bit better, but we'll dive into that. So let's go into kind of the content, why I chose the MGW. If you're looking for an aftermarket shifter, why you might want to consider one for your Mustang or for another vehicle. At the end of the video, we will have some driving. There's a little slight issue that I'm going to talk about at that point, which is going to prevent me from really driving the car hard, and actually been not driving it a ton because I'm waiting on a part. We'll talk about that later. But I will give you a little bit of driving so you can kind of see what the MGW is like. So I'll show you right here is why I have and always will, given the opportunity, buy MGW products. So I've had an MGW in, let's see, a 2004 Mustang. I've had it in a 2013 Mustang. I've put one from an F-body Camaro into my truck. I've helped friends install them in Corvettes. I've installed them in GT350s. They are the best in terms of quality, customer service. They're made in the USA. They're awesome. And again, this video is not meant to knock the Steeda shifter that I took out. In all fairness, it was a great shifter, but given the opportunity, I was doing some other stuff with the transmission. I had things apart. I was looking at it and I said, you know what? Let me call up George at MGW and just get one on order. And let me show you what happens. And this goes for any time you order anything from MGW. Let me show you what happens. The first reason why I really like their stuff. So in fairness, I did go through this a little bit, so this isn't gonna be the exact order that was packed in, but when you order an MGW, they go above and beyond. Okay, this right here, that's sound deadening. They don't have to give you that, right? That's not part of a short throw shifter. That comes with it. You're also gonna get everything in individual bags. That's really important. Everything's wrapped. Got my shift ball in here, custom milled, I'm sorry, probably turned out on a lathe. Custom turned, jam nut there with instructions. They even give you the damn tool to do it. And when I say they give you the tools, I mean they give you all the tools. They give you an Allen wrench. They give you all grade 8 hardware. They give you lock nuts. George hooked me up. He gave me 2 different shift handles. So I've got the OEM comfort handle, which will be more like stock. And I've also got the standard handle, which will be a little bit shorter. They also offer a race handle, but from a little research that I did, that's a little aggressive. I'm not drag racing this car. I think I would prefer the comfort. They give you the option of using a gasket instead of RTV. And by comparison, the gasket, let's see if I still have it over here. I may have thrown it out. I think I did. The one that came out when I pulled the Steeda out, which I'll show you here in a second, it didn't have all the surface area here. So, they give you the gasket. But if you don't want to use a gasket, they give you RTV. How cool is that? They give you a little tip for it. Like I said, everything comes nice and wrapped. As you can see, I've already opened this up. And again, like if you look at this piece right here and we hold it next to the, we hold it next to the Steeda, there are a lot of comparisons, right? Like, both have a thick aluminum base. Both of them have shift stops here. But one thing I noticed when you look at this, look at all this crap, right? This is potentially a combination of the leaking transmission out of the vent. But I also never found any kind of seal. So you've got this little like rubber dust boot thing, which will be a pain in the ass to get back on and off, but they give you this so that it kind of keeps everything in there. So that's another thing I like. There is a little bit of adjustability with the Steeda. You know, you've got 2 positions where you can mount the handle, and you know, it's an aluminum piece and the handle's aluminum as well. Again, this one shifts fine. I really didn't have any issues with it. I mean, if you have a Steeda, I'm not telling you go rip it out, but given the option between these two, and you just start to look at, you know, how this is put together versus, you know, just the shift handles, right? So, you know, this is I'm assuming stainless. You know, this is a stainless piece. That one right there looks to me like it's cast aluminum, you know, so just a little weaker. Again, I really think it's quality. So this isn't going to be a total full-on install video, but you know, I'll touch on some of this. When you remove these, you do want to take your time. Basically, you'll pull the dust boot out like what I have right here. If they're all torn up, you can buy a new one. You know, this one's not in too bad a shape. They do give you a little trick though if you watch the video. That's the other thing. When you buy an MGW, George, I believe he's the owner, he has basically instructions where he walks you through every step, and he takes it really slow. He doesn't jump any steps. He talks about ways not to damage the interior. You know, it's really detailed. So one of the things he talks about is, you know, how these can get beat up and kind of get, let's see, a little flappy there. So you can put a little tape around and hold them in place. I'll probably do that. Like I said, you could replace that if you wanted to. I did not. One thing that I did find out that was pretty cool was, let me see if I can find it. Should be over here on the bench somewhere. I don't know. Anyways, when I got an isolator cup for a T56, and that's the piece that goes down where the shift ball, let me show you. So basically where this piece right here goes down to the transmission, it goes into that. And I found out I bought an extra one for the truck when I did the T56, you know, kind of refurbishment, but I found out that that one was glued in place and I couldn't get it out. The ones in the Mustangs aren't glued. Now this is a T45, BorgWarner T45, that's a Tremec T56, but I got my calipers out, I measured everything, dimensions are the same. I'm not gonna say they're the same for every year, but the one that came out of the T45 matched the new one I had off the shelf. And it really didn't look like it was in that bad a shape, but if they do get worn, you can get a little bit of extra play in the shifter. So while I had it out, I just went ahead and replaced it. So I'm gonna go jump to the video right now because like I said, MGW has good instructions. I did pull everything out, you know, the other day. And so it's all ready to go, but I'll watch that video one more time before I go ahead and put this in. What else? Oh, I'm gonna make sure that the car is in neutral, which is gonna be tough because it's sitting on the ground. I guess I can push it because it does help if it's in neutral. If not, I'd put the old shifter back in just for a second, hand tighten a couple bolts, make sure it's in neutral. That just helps line everything up. So let me check that real fast. It should be abundantly clear, but the gasket, if you choose to use it, only goes one way. So you can't, you know, you don't want to put it upside down. It only fits one way. They give you different hardware. These are the set screws for the shift stops. Those are not to mount it. These are the bolts, and you obviously want to go, first you put the lock washer on and then the flat washer. So the flat washer will sit against the base, and they talk about this in the video. This piece has to come off, and that is so that you can access the positive shift stops on the shifter when you put it in. They do recommend, if you are going to use the gasket, that you use some sort of thread sealant on these. I would recommend blue Loctite. So that's what your transmission looks like. That's that little cup I was talking about that just slides in there. As you can see, I went ahead and cleaned everything off. There's a piece of something that fell down in there that I'm gonna take out. This is the inside of that breather I was talking about, but you do wanna go and clean off that mounting surface. Either way, just around the perimeter so you get a good seal. So I'm gonna fish down in there and grab that out. Taking off this piece is not difficult. Just take your time, as there are, you know, quite a few little tabs. And there's also a connector here. In my case, this is for the cigarette lighter or the accessory port, whatever you want to call it. So let me get that little piece out. So I got to put the camera down, then I'll set the shifter base on there. So I got the shifter in there. Disregard these for a second. When you tighten these, don't go too crazy. I use the Loctite. Remember, you got lock washers. It is an aluminum housing, and you're going in with, you know, grade 8 steel bolts. So be careful. So the next step is, once you've got that in there, you know, make sure the thing goes in and out of gear. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the shift stops. And what that means is, let's say you're in third gear, right? Now, right now it's in third, it's stopped. But if you were banging gears real hard and you slam this thing into third, you could actually overshift the transmission and damage the inside. So what these do is you basically put it into third and fourth, you screw this in, and you don't just want to put it like in fourth gear in there. He actually tells you to pull on it just to make sure any deflection or anything like that, you know, that you've taken that into account, and you pull it real tough. Then you take this and you screw it in until it contacts the shifter, and then you back it off 3/4 to 1 full turn, right? Then you come in with your nut and you lock it in place. And those are your positive shift stops. Now, these aren't required in T56s, they're not required in 3650s, but for the T5s and T45s, they are. Now, the only thing I would say is when you thread these in, don't thread them in too far so that you're already hitting them and you think, you know, you're not, because you want to be able to shift this thing without the stop by hand, then set the stop. I'm going to use a little paint marker here and try to mark it. I actually screwed up. I started to mark it before I did it. So I'm going to take another color, mark this, and that way I can see where my 3/4 of a turn is. And you put an Allen in there to do it, hold it, and then take a wrench and lock it down. So again, I can't do that with the camera. Plus I want to take my time and focus on it, but watch the MGW video. They will show you exactly how to do it. The only part of the video that's not covered super well in the install is the installation of this dust boot. As best I can tell, you want to get it down so around the sides and where it comes around the bolts that it's as snug as possible to this, you know, the OD of that shifter, so nothing gets in there. And then there's like a little lip right here. I'm not sure whether it's supposed to come to here or there. I chose there, and then I'm going to push the other one over top. I think this is the mating surface for where the little orange piece rides. And then the next step is you take your the factory dust boot. I followed his instructions. I have some really thick electrical tape, heavy duty stuff. Put that on there to hold everything in place, and then you slide this back on, making sure that it doesn't fold up. These edges don't fold up, and that way you get rubber. You know, you want rubber on metal, not metal on metal, or it's going to rattle. So then you get this piece, this sound deadening, putting it over there. I actually almost went with the standard handle. It's really, the comfort handle. It's really comfy, as the name implies, but the throws did seem a little long, and I am installing a short throw, so I went with the standard handle here, but I raised it up just a tiny bit, and that's kind of a middle ground. They basically tell you if you shove this down in there, you will get more of, you know, the race handle. If you raise it up more, you kind of get more of the comfort. So rather than leave that tapered portion flush, I just brought it up maybe 100 thousandths, and seems to feel pretty good. You know, yeah. So I opted for the shift ball that you can get from them. It's got this neat machined kind of jam nut here, factory boot stays, you know, and that's what she looks like. Fits well with the gauges and everything. I got all them working. So let's take this thing out for a drive, and we'll kind of talk about it as we go. First impressions of the MGW. I would say the biggest improvement over, or the most noticeable change over the Steeda, is the adjustability. So the Steeda gives you one handle, which you can locate in 2 positions, basically raise the shift lever up and down. With the MGW, you have the ability to rotate both the portion that mounts to the shifter base and also the handle to give you kind of infinite adjustability. You can also go up and down, and there's different style handles. So in terms of tailoring it to your, you know, driving style, that's probably the biggest difference. All right, well, let's go for a drive here. Doesn't take a ton of effort, as you can see. A little more effort right now, I think, than the Steeda was when I first got the car, but I kind of equate that to potentially the issue that I'm having with the clutch cable. And that's just what I mean. Just putting it in gear, I have to give it a little more force than normal. As you can see, the new shifter works fantastic. The throws are nice and short. You can feel where every gear is. It returns to neutral like butter. It's great. Hopefully you're not upset that I wasn't banging any gears. The reason for that is I think I have an issue with the stock clutch cable and the stock quadrant. It's wearing out. And that's part of the reason why you can feel a little more effort going into gear. I'm hoping it's the cable. I've got a new clutch cable and quadrant and everything on the way that I'll be able to adjust and get rid of the stock one. So, but you know, again, I haven't been driving the car much because I really don't want to damage anything, but I did want to show you, you know, just kind of go around the block so you can get an idea what it looks like. If you've got a stock shifter, you'll immediately know the throws are much shorter. As we wrap this video up, I just want to show you kind of what the next thing is for the car. So, in speaking with Maximum Motorsports, they're very adamant about the fact that you need to address the rigidity before you do anything else. The only reason I didn't do that with this is because of all the old suspension parts on the car. I wanted to get it back on the road. But now that it's on the road, drivable, tagged, everything, we are going to go straight to the parts back there on the bench, which I'll show you. And that is the real starting point that folks recommend when, you know, trying to turn these cars into performance cars. So let's go through that real quick, and then you'll know kind of what's coming in the next video. So what you're looking at here is the Maximum Motorsports full-length painted subframe connectors. These are weld-in. So you've got, you know, some bolts here. They come with seat brackets, and this will basically firm up the mounting of the seat, tie everything together. So now the front and the rear of the car are both one. Additionally, this is their Panhard bar. So I've got the Maximum Motorsports Panhard bar. Obviously this is adjustable to get you to center the axle underneath the car and really help control the side-to-side movement of everything. Ultimately, we will be installing a torque arm, which will remove the upper two control arms, but for now, we're just doing this. This is really the heart of any future major upgrades if you plan to go with Maximum Motorsports, because a lot of things tie into this and require that you have it, like the torque arm. So we will get those installed here. Maybe not this weekend, but you know, in the near future, and I will of course have videos on that. And then after it's all installed, we'll get this thing back on the track. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, thank you for all the support. Everyone who subscribed, I really appreciate it. And stay tuned, because we got plenty more racing to do on the channel. I'm taking this guy out to a car show tomorrow. So bled the clutch, just kind of gave it a once over, and maybe I'll get some footage of that. Until next time, stay tuned.